Hello, everyone, and welcome. We just have a few more minutes before we officially kick off the webinar as we wait for a few other folks to join us. But while you're waiting, I'd encourage you to take just a couple minutes to familiarize yourself with the platform. The control panel on the right-hand side of the screen is going to have all the tools you need to connect with us throughout the webinar. You should see several tabs, including the audio tab, which will give you either the phone numbers you need to connect, or if you prefer to listen through your computer speakers, you can access the audio broadcast directly there. You should also see a tab labeled questions, which you can use to ask questions during the webinar, or let us know if you're having any technical issues. My colleague Juliana is online right now. She's my technical support today, so she can give you a hand if you have any troubles or any questions of a more specific nature. So to start, I see we've got maybe 15 or so people on the line so far. Why don't we do a quick test of the chat function if you're online now and have access to the questions. Maybe just say your name and where you're joining us from. Oh, hi, Trevor from Churchill, Manitoba. That's great. Come on, folks, don't be shy. There we go. Lindsay from the city of Vancouver. Hi. Julie from city of Kingston. This is great. Hey, Allie. Oh, I know Allie. The town of Orangeville. And Rebecca from Perth. Cool. Alton Glen, town of Paradise. From Newfoundland. This is great. Samantha from Kitchener. Hassan from Bonfield, Ontario. Jennifer from Halton Hills. Good. So it's nice to see we've got some good diversity of people from across the country. But I see it's 101, so we'll go ahead and jump right in. So thank you everyone for joining us for this webinar. So I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Yvonne Ritchie, and I'm a project coordinator here at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. And I work in the Green Municipal Fund as part of our capacity building team. And I'm also the main coordinator for FCM's Sustainable Communities Awards this coming year. So today's session is an opportunity to introduce you to the Sustainable Community Awards if this is the first time that you're hearing about them, and as well to give you an opportunity to learn more about the application process and why municipal staff choose or should choose to apply. So a few quick housekeeping items before we get started. We have about an hour planned for today, and I'll be taking up most of the first half with my presentation. I'll start by providing a little bit of background on FCM and the awards to give you some context. And then we'll go over some of the key details about the program, including the awards categories, the requirements, deadlines, and of course, what happens if you actually win an award. I'll also do a brief webcast of my screen at one point to help orient everyone to where you can find the application form on our website and point out a few different things there. And then in the second half, I'll be introducing you to our two guest speakers, Dan and Caitlin, who are both former winners from the awards program in 2018. So we'll do a bit of a panel discussion with each of them, and you'll have an opportunity to hear more about their winning projects and ask them questions. So please feel free to ask questions throughout the webinar. We'll do our best to keep an eye on the chat box and kind of pause periodically throughout. But if we do miss something, or if you miss something during the session, have to leave early, we are recording the webinar and we can share that with you as well. So I'll start now with just a little bit of context on who we are. So the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, or FCM, is the national voice of municipal governments in Canada. It represents the interest of municipalities across Canada on matters of federal jurisdiction. And our membership is roughly 2,000 municipalities that represents about 90% of Canada's population. In addition to sort of that federal advocacy role, FCM also delivers a number of programs and services that are designed to support municipalities in helping build strong and sustainable cities at home and abroad. And this includes a range of different supports, including our funding programs, resources and trainings, as well as recognition programs like the Sustainable Community Awards. At the national level, FCM has 3 major programs that focus on innovative solutions to sustainability challenges. There's, of course, the Green Municipal Fund, which is our flagship sustainability program, and going into its 20th anniversary next year. So the Green Municipal Fund was established in 2000 after an endowment by the Government of Canada, and it's now a more than $1 billion fund. The Green Municipal Fund operates primarily in 5 sectors, so energy, transportation, wastewater, and land use or brownfields. And in each of these sectors, we offer both a mixture of funding as well as capacity building. Our other 2 national programs are the Municipalities for Climate Innovation program, which supports initiatives that focus on reducing climate change vulnerability and greenhouse gas emissions. And it similarly does this through both funding and resources such as partnerships with other organizations and network building. And then the 3rd program is the Municipal Asset Management program, which helps to strengthen municipal asset management practices and decisions around infrastructure. Together, these 3 programs provide a way for municipalities to access the capital that they need to move creative projects from idea to reality, and also to ensure that they're able to find resources, make connections, and really learn best practices to help ensure that, that those projects are successful. So the Sustainable Communities Awards emerged as a way to then celebrate those environmental initiatives that were successfully completed and really celebrate the sustainability trailblazers in municipalities across Canada. So the awards program has been around for a long time as well. It first launched in 2001, shortly after the Green Municipal Fund. And over the last 17 or so iterations of these awards, FCM has presented over 180 projects with a Sustainable Communities Award in more than 120 municipalities across Canada. And one thing you'll note as well, if you look at sort of the map in the background there, is that these are national awards. And so all communities of all sizes across Canada are encouraged to apply. To date, we've had winners in every single province and territory. And the populations of those municipalities can range from as high as a few million all the way down to a few hundred. Last year, the village of Salmo won for the asset management category with a population of, I think, about 1,100 people. Essentially, the winning projects just have to demonstrate sustainability best practices as relevant to their local contexts and showcase how you can apply similar initiatives in your own community. So FCM presents these awards biannually to outstanding municipal projects in several different categories. And the categories this year reflect the different sectors that can be funded across the Green Municipal Fund, the Municipalities for Climate Innovation program, and the Municipal Asset Management program. So these categories are energy, waste, brownfields or land use, water and transportation from the Green Municipal Fund, and then climate change and asset management reflect those 2 other programs. The neighborhoods category is similarly, it's a cross-cutting category, so it focuses on initiatives that are done at the neighborhood scale or communities that are smaller than 10,000 people. But here you might be looking at something like a sustainable neighborhood action program or plan where you're addressing not just energy and not just transportation, but multiple things at that level. I won't go into too many specifics about the awards categories themselves unless there's very specific questions, but you can find all this information on our website. Each of the different categories has a separate webpage with information on the types of eligible initiatives, as well as some example projects and case studies from last year's winners. And some projects you might think they fit under multiple categories. So what we've suggested is that you try to apply to the category that best represents the primary benefit or the goal of your initiative. So if it's something that has sort of cross-cutting benefits, really think about why you're actually implementing this initiative. Is it to drive GHG reductions? Is it to save energy, to encourage active transportation, and that kind of thing? And that will hopefully help you scope out your project. If you're still not sure, have a look at the examples on our website. And if you feel like it would be helpful to have a conversation about it, please feel free to reach out to us as well, and we can point you in the right direction. So as I mentioned, these awards are open to all municipal governments across Canada, but they are also open to municipal project partners. So this includes private sector entities, Indigenous communities, municipally owned corporations, regional and provincial territorial associations or organizations, nonprofits, and researchers. In terms of eligibility, the main requirements besides the sort of sector-specific focus that we have for each category is that, one, there has to be municipal involvement in the project. So if you are a consultant working on behalf of a municipality, you can apply on their behalf, but you need to indicate at least one municipal staff member and one elected official who can help to champion the project. And then the other piece for this year's awards is that the project must be initiated or completed between January 1st, 2018 and March 31st, 2020, which is when the applications close. And this is to ensure really that we're focusing on more recent projects and that there isn't like overlap between each award cycle. We're really trying to focus on the current or the more recent projects. And I saw we just had a question about this in the chat box. So this is great timing, Lindsay. But I just to speak a little bit about our Visionary Award. This is our sort of our one exception to the rule about recent projects. So we're doing something a little bit different this year by introducing a new award. So this award is in honor of the Green Municipal Fund's 20th anniversary, and we're calling it the Visionary Award. So this award recognizes an initiative that demonstrates long-term community change from a sustainable project. So this might be something that had a more widespread or long-term impact, something that was a real game changer for your municipality or was really innovative in its time. And the award will require evidence of long-term performance monitoring and applying lessons learned. So essentially you have to be able to explain not only how it's had an impact on your community, but how you've been monitoring the success and using what you're learning from that to kind of push new initiatives forward in your community. So think of it like a catalyst for future action. And to my earlier point, eligible projects for this award can be from any sector that was previously mentioned, and it can have started or ended any time in the last 20 years. So unlike the previous sector awards, it's intended for those that have a bit of a longer lifespan or older projects that might just sort of now be starting to realize those benefits. It's intentionally fairly open-ended, and I think we want that to kind of be reflected in the types of projects we receive. It's very hard to say, you know, what is the best project that we're going to receive from the last 20 years. So we don't want to be too prescriptive in what we tell people, and it's really just about how you tell the story about what did this project do for my community and why is it something that I think is worth an award. So I'll leave it at that, but if you have more questions, I'm happy to chat about that further. This is a reminder to me to just take a moment. If you have any other questions about the categories, I can take those. And Lindsay, please also let me know if that didn't answer your question about the Visionary Award. Okay, perfect. Oh, can we apply for more than one category? Yes. So if you have multiple projects that you're working on and that are eligible under more than one category, then yes, absolutely, you can definitely apply for more than one project. I wouldn't recommend, if it's the same project and you don't know which category it fits under, I wouldn't recommend applying twice. It's really just more work. So it's better to choose the category that you think best reflects the project. And our judges can always discuss amongst themselves if they think, hey, this might actually be a better fit for this category. That's fine, they can just move it over. But if you have more than one project, then yes, you can apply to both. Okay, I'll move on for now, but we'll have another chance for questions at the end as well. So we'll review the application form in just a moment, but for your information, I just want to share a quick summary of some of the pieces of information you'll need before you get started on your application, just sort of some high-level information. The first thing, as I previously mentioned, is a municipal staff person or an elected official who can act as the lead on the project. So there should be at least one municipal representative who's available to attend the award ceremony, which would take place in October at our Sustainable Communities Conference, and I'll talk about that a little bit more shortly. You're also going to need a signed letter of support from your municipal council or mayor, and we do have templates available if you need help preparing your letter. It can be quite short. It's really just an acknowledgement of the lead applicant and the application that you're doing. So saying something like, I acknowledge that so-and-so is applying for this award, and acknowledging that it's an initiative that deserves recognition. The other thing you'll need is a picture to help promote your project. So this could be of your project site, or it could be a picture of your project team if it's something that's a little bit like a plan that's a little bit harder to capture in an image, or whatever else you think kind of helps best capture the spirit of the initiative. And of course, you'll need to know your project details. So this includes a summary of the project itself, the needed addresses in your community. You'll need information on the environmental, social, and economic outcomes or intended benefits of the project, some information on key lessons learned and how you're monitoring success, and then details on stakeholder engagement and consultation. So let's take a look at the form itself. We'll take a couple minutes here and make sure that everyone can access the site. I'm going to turn off my webcam just for a moment because I have to look up at the bigger screen here. I don't want you looking at my chin. Okay. So you can access the awards application through just through our main webpage if you go to fcm.ca, and you can access the awards under the About FCM page. It's maybe not as intuitive of a place to go, but we'll just click on that here. And you'll have to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page, and you'll find our awards section here. You just click on that. And then Sustainable Community Awards should be the first one here. So that's how you get to the main landing page for the awards. And here you'll see there's a brief description of what the awards are, and then there's links to each of the different awards categories, a little bit of information about why you should apply, and then you can see who the judges are as well. So I'll just click on, we'll just do water, for example, here. And then so on each page, it just gives you a quick list of the types of projects we're looking for. It's pretty high level. It's not as strict as our funding program, for example. It's really just what kinds of things we're looking for. In this case, programs and projects, and examples of some of the possible ones. Here's the links to some of the case studies from last year's winners. And then you have the information here about how to contact us if you have questions. And then the application form is linked at the bottom of each category page. So when you click on the application form, it's going to bring you to our submittable account here, which is so fcm.submittable.com/submit. And so this is what the landing page looks like. It's just a quick bit of information about the application, when the deadline is in French and English, and then you have two options to choose from here. I'm sorry, I mean to click on that. But it's the same form, just available in English and in French, so whichever you prefer. And you can also change the language up at the top here to make the website be in French if you prefer. You will need to make an account to access the application form, but it's just enter in your email and a password. It doesn't send you a lot of notifications or anything like that. It's just a way for us to communicate with you. And then this is the application form itself. I'm hoping it's quite straightforward, but of course, if you do have questions as you go through your application, we're more than happy to help you out with that. So just feel free if you have any questions. But you'll see as you go through it that it's mostly a combination of drop downs and sort of fill-in spaces. So for example, just entering names and titles of your team members. This is where you would upload the letter of support from your municipal council, the picture, and then information about the project, including which awards you're applying for. And one thing that I'll note here is that it's important just to take a quick look before you start collecting information at all of the questions, because sometimes for certain questions there's a form logic applied. So for example, if you click on yes, I'm applying for the Visionary Award, it changes the questions that you'll see. That's really only the case for the Visionary Award, and then the asset management category has different questions than the other categories do. So just a quick note as you're going through to make sure to take a look at that. And then each of the questions is kind of, most of them have a limit of about 400 words. Last year we had a limit of only 250 words, but we found that was a bit tight for people to actually be able to answer the questions fully. So we bumped up the word limit. But you'll see it's the same kinds of questions that I outlined above with your overview of the project, the needs it addresses, stakeholder consultation, that kind of thing, and so forth. And if you have if you started working on a draft and you want to come back to it later, you can save it here, and you can access it in your drafts page, which will just show you all of your saved drafts as well as all of your submissions and whether or not they've been accepted or declined. So you can access everything through this website. If you do have any concerns about accessibility, or are you otherwise find that this platform is difficult to use, again, please contact us and let us know. I mean, we definitely like this online approach. We think it really simplifies the process, but if you prefer a PDF version or something like that, then we're more than happy to accommodate as needed as well. Okay, that's great. So a few questions coming in. Is there a way to see all the questions in a printable or easier format? So yes, again, just let me know and I can send you a PDF if you prefer. And then in order for projects to be eligible, do they need to have received funding through an FCM program? No, they don't need to. We do ask a question in the application form about whether or not you have received funding so that we can potentially use your application as a source of information about the project, but there's no requirement for you to be a funded project. Okay, great. So as of last November 19th, the call for applications is officially open and will be open until March 31st, 2020. So there's lots of time for you to get your application in, to track down additional information, and talk to us if you have any questions. But then once the applications close in March, our judges will then review each of the applications, scoring them based on the overall level of clarity, creativity, ambition, and innovation, as well as the depth of your responses to each of the individual questions. And we should then have final winners selected by the end of May 2020. So you'll hear from us one way or the other about the judge's decision kind of at that end of May, early June point. If your project is selected to win one of the awards categories, a few things do happen next. First, we release an official announcement, which will likely be at our annual conference in June, and we'll also have some promotion online. And then we'll provide an official letter to the mayor and council of your municipality to recognize that you've won. Our team will work with you over the summer to help you promote your project and to share your story. In the past, we've typically done this through networking and our own kind of promotional strategies, as well as the creation of knowledge products like case studies or templates or other toolkits to share lessons learned. In previous years, we've also done videos to highlight the different municipalities, but something that we introduced in 2018 with great success was our Sustainable Community Awards TED Talks. And here, each of the winners works individually with a dedicated speaking professional to help craft their project story into a narrative that they can share on stage in an unofficial TED Talk setting. And so winners will have the opportunity to work again with a speaking coach this year over the summer on their story to be able to present that in the fall at the official award ceremony, which takes place at our biannual Sustainable Communities Conference. So this coming year, our Sustainable Communities Conference will be taking place in St. John's, Newfoundland, next October 20th through 22nd, and registration for that should be opening sometime in March. But one important point to note is that in addition to being there to present, winners are also entitled to free conference admission. And in certain cases, because we recognize that St. John's is, for those of you on the West Coast, it's not the easiest place to get to. So in certain cases, we do offer subsidies for your travel based on need. If you're curious about what these TED Talks look like, last year's were all recorded and are on our website. So feel free to explore those to get a sense of what's to come. And Dan and Caitlin, our panelists today, were both present at last year's conference, and they'd be able to answer any questions you have about that as well. And finally, the last thing that I wanted to talk about before I hand things over to Dan and Caitlin is the Inspire Award. So that's yet another award in our pool of award categories this year. But this one's a little bit different from the other awards because it's not part of the initial call for applications. It's essentially like a People's Choice Award, and we select it during the Sustainable Communities Conference. This was a new concept that was introduced in 2018 along with the TED Talks, And essentially it celebrates a project that's deemed to best capture elements of creativity and innovation and storytelling, and it's determined by the conference delegates. So after everyone's given their talk, delegates then have the opportunity to vote online for their favorite presentation. And the winner is revealed during the closing plenary on the final day of the conference. Last year's winner was the City of Kingston for their project on increasing transit ridership among high school students. The Inspire Award comes with a couple of extra perks as well, including the opportunity to help create your very own guidebook on your project. So this one, for example, is a more in-depth resource that explores your initiative and lays out a step-by-step for other municipalities to help replicate it. So I'd invite you to take a look at this one. It should be on the website, linked kind of with the Sustainable Community Awards as well, and in our resource library. So I'd advise you to check that out if you're curious to see kind of what comes out of winning the Inspire Award, and I'm excited to see what the next iterations will be. So that's basically all I have on the awards. For a couple kind of key takeaways that I'd like you to take home with you is, of course, the deadline to apply is March 31st. So don't forget, you still have a number of months, but that will creep up quickly. So keep that in your calendar if you're planning to submit an application. The case studies and TED Talks, they're all online, and I'd really advise you to check those out. They're great resources, really give you a sense of what's coming. And don't forget to mark your calendar for the SCC. I say register on the slide, but of course, if you want to wait to see if you win an award, you can wait until then. Otherwise, definitely register. It's a really great conference and a really great networking opportunity as well. Okay. I'll just pause for a couple more questions. I see we have a few more who've come in. When do you announce the winners? October 20. Oh, okay. So we announce the winners before the actual conference. So it's when we notify people in June, and then we put out an official announcement via our social media, and people are kind of welcome to share. And then we sort of use that to promote over the summer, saying like, hey, come to the conference. You'll learn more about these winning projects, and you'll have a chance to hear them speak in a TED Talk format. But the actual like awarding of the projects is done at the conference, and it's done at the conference, and then that's where the Inspire Award is chosen. Is the Inspire Award given only to winners of another category? I'm not sure I understand what you mean by that question. Perhaps Amy, if you could clarify what you mean. But in general, it's any of the award winners, and I think we'll include the Visionary Award in that. But basically, whoever's the people's choice. So any of the 9 winners will have the chance to go for the Inspire Award. Oh, this is great. I'm seeing lots of questions. Just give me a moment, guys. Can you go over criteria and high level again, or eligibilities? I'm happy to share the presentation for anyone who missed it, but essentially it's, for most of the categories, it's recent projects, so anytime in the last 2 years, and there has to be some degree of municipal involvement. Yeah, so there's no specific monetary value associated with the project, but there's that sort of that capacity building opportunity. So I guess if you think about in terms of travel costs, then it might depend on, if you're a small rural municipality or you're traveling really far, then we're willing to work with you. And in that sense, there is a monetary value. But there's no actual like check or anything like that associated with it. But then the sort of like the speaking, coaching, and all of that, I think we could assign a value to that as well, but it tends to be more in sort of from the benefits of promotion and networking and that kind of thing. Okay. And how would delegates vote on it if has not won another award? So it's basically everyone who's in attendance at the SCC, as they listen to every award winner give their TED Talk. We then have like an app that they can open on their phones, and they can say like, hey, this was my favorite of them. This is the one I think is most deserving of the awards. I think that's all the questions, but again, if there's anything else, I'll try to answer that afterwards, or if you have anything that you think it needs to be followed up, like you can definitely reach out to me, and I'm happy to chat in more detail. Okay. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our 2 panelists for today. Caitlin and Dan, if you want to turn on your webcams now, that'd be great. So our first panelist is Caitlin Rochon from Durham Region. After being thrust into emergency management in 2013 following 2 record-setting floods in the Toronto area, Caitlin took a keen interest in climate adaptation and the policy levers available to municipalities to reduce risk to life and damage to property associated with extreme weather. Today, she is an emergency management coordinator for Durham Region, responsible for municipal response for all emergencies, natural, man-made, and technological in the nuclear energy capital of Canada. Caitlin is the mom of 2 rambunctious kids, a world traveler, and an avid reader. She loves hanging out with her family at their old family cottage in the Appalachians, building things and walking her Bernese mountain dog, Hannah. Our second panelist is Dan Hendry, joining us from Kingston. Dan strives toward promoting sustainable initiatives for the Limestone District School Board and is the manager of community-based learning and innovation at St. Lawrence College. His concern for the environment is what drives him to take the initiative in promoting sustainable solutions within the Kingston community. He continues to engage in initiatives that promote positive sustainable change throughout the Kingston community. His combined interest in sustainability, innovation, entrepreneurship, student mentorship, and community have been well integrated into his personal, academic, and professional experiences. Dan is continuously seeking new opportunities to connect with like-minded professionals who engage in sustainable and innovative initiatives within the community. So welcome, Dan. So it's great to have you both online with us today. And I hope we're going to get some great audience participation as well. But I'll start off the panel with a few of my own questions just to kind of get the ball rolling, and we'll see how things go. So to start, it would be great if I could hear from both of you just to tell me a little bit more about your projects that won the award, and maybe speak to sort of what the goals of the project were, how they helped your community, and really what you think made them sort of stand out. And we'll start with Caitlin. I think I have your slide up first, Caitlin.
Sure. So our project was the Durham Community Climate Adaptation Plan. And this plan was really unique because it brought together so many different municipalities within our region, the conservation authorities, and beyond. So Durham's pretty unique.
Caitlin, your connection's a little bit fuzzy. Are you using the phone still?
I am on the phone still. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
I cannot hear Yvonne.
It's okay. Can other people hear us out there?
Yeah.
Maybe you can chat there if you can hear us.
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Dan, I hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I
Okay.
can hear you now.
Caitlin, I couldn't hear you before, but if you're back, then everyone else can hear, then that's great.
Okay, I'm going to proceed. So our climate adaptation plan was unique because within Durham Region, we have 8 local area municipalities, 5 conservation authorities, many electrical utilities. So really, there's just a lot of different players at the table. And this plan was unique just because it was community focused. We looked a lot at individual building codes. We looked at electrical issues, flooding, health risks, roads, as well as the natural environment. And it really broke down silos, acknowledged that climate adaptation is not something that we can do individually. And a lot of the programs that came out of it, their success depends on each of these organizations contributing. So this plan really jump-started municipal adaptation planning for all of our local municipalities. And it really showed our council and senior leadership that this work shouldn't be completed in silos, and really just how complex the adaptation problem is and how we can all work together. So that's a little bit about the project.
Great, thanks so much, Caitlin, and sorry about the technical issues there. I'm not sure why we lost it, but I've got an extra headphone here, so we'll see if that'll work. Dan, if you want to go ahead and give a quick summary of your project.
Yeah, so I have a couple slides here. Just starting off, I don't know if anyone's heard it. We got to make a guidebook about the project, which was pretty neat. So really, I actually don't work for the City of Kingston. I'm a close partner to Kingston Transit. We work very closely together and have for the last 8 years. But I actually work for the local school board. So my voice is kind of different, I guess, in this area because I'm not a municipality. We work very close with them. I helped with the process of this application because we want to spread what we're doing. Fairly simple, but not complex in its own way. So if you can switch the slides here, there's a couple moving videos. Hopefully the stream work well. I'm going to speak over them here. Really, it was about training youth on transit. So I go with, that's me there with students from secondary school. We literally go to every high school in the City of Kingston and teach them firsthand how to ride buses. And politically pushed before that was free transit passes for grade 9s, and then it made its way through grade 9 through 12. So the next slide there will show what it's doing for us. So again, working for the school board, the big thing we're realizing, there's so much good in our community with this initiative. You'll see there the first year with grade 9s, and then the usage afterwards. That's 9, 10, 11, and 12. It went from 28,000 grade 9 rides that first year through orientation on site and distribution of free passes to over 600,000 rides per year. So people say, oh, it's more, it's free. It is kind of, but it's saving a lot of the money for the schools, the board, as well as growing ridership for the community, and we're realizing that. So one more or two more slides, if you can continue. So again, continue with that. It's also a master's thesis was done on it, and it showed that grade 12s use it 3 times more frequently than grade 9s. As well, on top of that, they said that after all the research and the interviews they did with different stakeholders, it said that it could be a very good travel stimulant for youth independence in small to medium-sized communities. So right now, after this opportunity, we'll talk more about that. The next thing it actually did for our community is the next slide, Yvonne, was actually Kingston Transit decided there was little revenue left after for 14 and under because it was kids really. So they opened that up for free. And I use that word lightly because it was never just about kids riding free. It was how to attract young families on the bus. And this is a new thing that's changed since we won the award there and got to present. But now we have each school in our community has a field trip pass. And last year there were 900 field trips on our pre-existing transit system. So all these kind of tied into the programming that we presented on at the FCM SCC in 2018.
That's great. Thank you so much, Dan. I think as you both kind of already touched on this a little bit, but was there anything in particular that you like? What do you think was sort of like the most innovative or creative aspect of your projects? We'll start maybe with Dan and then go back to Caitlin. Sort of things that you at a high level.
I think a lot of communities have this, but the education system and the municipal system don't always work in the same area. Like we're in the same area, but we're in education, they're in managing municipal services. So this was one that created, again, by politics, but it created an opportunity that we really took advantage of and iterated. What you're seeing now, what we presented on, was a lot of failures, not necessarily bad, but leading up to what we refined over time. So I think it's something that's very scalable between communities, and I'll talk a bit later, but literally right during this conversation, I got an email from Charlottetown in PEI and Stratford looking at doing it. Starting it. So like people across Canada, and now actually we're getting inquiries from the States looking at it. So I think it's not a simple solution. Once it takes a while to get going, but it's very practical and it creates a lot of good, and it's scalable between communities.
That's great.
Yeah, for us in Durham region, I think the biggest piece was just how many organizations we were able to bring together and creating those partnerships and really creating the relationships to be able to implement the programs that we developed. There's a sense of ownership over them, I would say, and so that will help us as we move into implementation.
Well, that's great. Thank you, both of you. Maybe you could speak then a little bit sort of at sort of the initial stages of these projects and thinking back to when you thought about applying. Was it sort of those aspects that you talked about? Was that what drove you to want to apply, or were there other things that inspired you to apply for the Sustainable Communities Awards program? Caitlin, maybe I'll let you go first.
Sure. So we had so much so much momentum at the end of the planning process. When we finally completed the plan, we took it to each of our 8 local area municipalities for approval by each of their councils. We took it to each of our conservation authorities boards, so there's 5 of those as well, and everybody approved it before it went to our own regional council. So we really had a ton of buy-in. We knew it was great, but we really wanted to share our approach, our framework with others, and we wanted our community to really understand what we had done.
Great.
And I think on this side, several things. One is to celebrate. I mean, you know, at that time, it had been going for several years in different iterations as we're refining it. And like Caitlin said, there's a lot of stakeholders. So we don't often, we're all so busy, it seems, we don't take enough time to reflect on changing things in iteration, but also celebrate. Another piece there was, you know, we really, it was a national platform to share a success, and not just for our ego, but I think it's, and we're seeing it now, it can be done across different communities and do so much good. Like, it's just doing so much good. About, it's not just buses, it's getting 600,000 trips A to B. That's volunteering, that's work, that's their first date, that's school. 50% of those trips are not before and after school. So that's life, right? And that's affecting greenhouse gases and parents. And there's so many good things there. So that's one, to share it because it's working in our community, and we believe it can be adapted different ways for different sized communities across Canada. And lastly, I think selfishly, because it was a pilot, when I helped put this together, I wanted to make sure that, you know, if we're banging our chests and saying we're doing so well, and if we got an award, which we're lucky to get, how we can't take something like this away. It was still a pilot, and now it's not anymore. It's kind of going on indefinitely. But I think it was just that celebration at a national level, that and being recognized for that creates legitimacy for the work that we're doing. Because sometimes we look to others for legit. Oh, well, that city's doing it great. Let's do it. You know, and we thought it was something worthwhile to share.
That's excellent. And I suppose you both kind of already talked about having a lot of really good buy-in and support for the projects going forward. But do you feel like having, and Dan, you already talked about sort of that national recognition, but were there other reasons or other things that you've noticed since having won this award? And I mean, certainly you mentioned that the examples that other municipalities are taking up this project, but are there other ways that you think that it's benefited the community or helped you promote it differently than you might have if you hadn't applied?
Yeah, absolutely. Here in Durham, it definitely helped us to secure a funding source as we move into implementation, right? So now we have all of this council buy-in. We have a community that knows that we have an award-winning plan, and it really has enabled us to get some of the funding we need to start moving into implementation.
That's great. What about you, Dan?
Well, yeah, no, I think, yeah, again, it was, for us, we got to do the guidebook, which was, it consolidated it. For me, it was a really important piece because, again, the two systems are slightly different, municipalities and schools. So a thing that was in people's hands to show the value proposition for both sides. So whether it be a school board that has it, says, listen, this would be really good for our students, or a community that had it. So I think that was one thing that came out of that for us. And then the national recognition, for sure. I was not trying to be rude. It wasn't my wife texted me or anything. It was just trying to look at a press release. A lot of times it's cited in the press release of other communities who are now trying to do the same type of thing that would hopefully work for their community. It says, you know, we did this success, which was great, and it was award winner from the, you know, so it brings one more thing to others to consider doing it because it is an award-winning thing. So I think it helps with spreading the idea, and that's the base of what the FCM is about, and it's really helped us.
Well, that's awesome. I know that Caitlin, in particular, you've taken on a new position, but in terms of sort of the next directions for these projects for both of you, do you know what steps have been taken, or who people should go to find out more information about these projects and where they're at now?
Yeah, so we have a new manager here, Ian McVeigh, and he's going to be leading the implementation. So we're really looking forward to seeing how this project unrolls here at the region. We've established a new community of practice within the corporation, and I will be participating in that. here's my little plug. So Durham Region just recently posted a position to be the program coordinator for climate change. So if this is a project that you're interested in, that position is posted, I believe, until the 15th. So you can have your hand in implementation if it's something that appeals to you.
And then for me, I just sent in, I think, the chat box, if you can see it. If not, it can be posted, but you can reach out to myself, Henry D at limestone.on.ca, or Jeremy DaCosta. Both the emails can be sent out. It depends on what you want. Usually we kind of do it together because it's good to have a voice. We meet these meetings, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, sometimes an hour with different communities just on the phone if we can. Over lunches or break, doesn't really matter because people have specific questions they want answered, but it's really helpful to have. We work so closely together because it's done so much good. We both kind of take it on and give both perspectives to hopefully show the strength of what it's doing for our community.
Oh, that's excellent. I think I'll change tack a little bit now. And again, anyone who has questions for either Dan or Caitlin, please feel free to start popping those in the chat box now. But I'd be interested to hear a little bit more about sort of your experience with the speaking coaching and how you found that really helped you on a more personal level, and sort of where you've taken that since. Caitlin, we'll start with you again.
Yeah, sure. So personally, I was 28 when I gave the presentation at the awards. I'd had my son 9 days prior, so at the time I was thinking, what the heck have I gotten myself into? But I found the coaching to be so beneficial, probably one of the most beneficial pieces of professional development training that I've had in the last 10 years. Just this past week, I was on Global Durham speaking about our nuclear public alerting. So it's really given me the confidence and some skills that I can apply elsewhere in my career moving forward. And I can tell you absolutely, when I was competing for my current position, it definitely came up through the interview process. So it's absolutely something that looks good on you to participate in.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and for myself, I mean, there's multiple layers. Personally, I'm very comfortable usually in front of a group. Well, comfortable enough if I know my material, but it pushed me to strive bigger, different, right? It wasn't just a PowerPoint. You were by yourself on stage. You had to know it. Like Caitlin said, it was, again, I had butterflies, and that's not something I get all the time anymore. So I know that helped push me personally. I see a lot of conferences that it's kind of like planning a wedding, which I did most of for mine, by the way. But it's things like, you got the event, you got the speaker, you got the swag, you know what I mean? Like, you do all that. I thought it was a great use of resources from the FCM to invest in 5 different people from across Canada to tell our stories. So it wasn't just, not that it's bad to have a keynote to pay them a lump of money, because they're always inspiring, but it was a really good use of resources. And I think it pushed me personally, but I think, and professionally, which I really appreciated. So I was lucky to have that opportunity. Taking it on again, like with a busy life, I could, a lot of practice, but it was for our advantage to take advantage of. And what I mean by that is Terry Terry was my coach, fantastic guy. And I could check with him at 7:30 in the morning, like we'd schedule it, but I'd had Zoom conversations. So it also allowed for a lot of accountability on my side in a busy life to make sure I put the effort that I wanted to put into the opportunity. So I thought it was a fantastic opportunity. So the opportunity twice there, 3 times now. Sorry about that.
No, that's great. Thank you, Dan. And yeah, I think it's a really interesting initiative that we took on last year, and I think it's been really beneficial to so much of what we do at FCM is, there's the funding piece, but capacity building is really like a really big piece of what we aim to do. We think it's really important for municipalities and individuals to build these skills. So I'm really glad that this is something we've adopted into the program. As a bit of a follow-up on that one, and I think Caitlin, you already addressed this one, so maybe I'll direct it a bit more to Dan. But how else have you given your presentation anywhere else since either the specific one about the project?
after that, I mean, the opportunity was there to spread the message a bit. So I've recently was sent down to the Municipal Innovator Conference at Deerhurst, which was a good opportunity to do a longer iteration of it. But I think kind of something that I pushed myself because I wanted to, and I want to spread the word. It's done so much. All these mid-sized North American communities could use this as a mechanism to help do so much good in their community and spur future transit ridership. Like, that's what it's about. It's about growing transit ridership. You teach them, you show them, and it's working. And for me, it's 7.7 billion people, greenhouse gas emissions. We see it every day. UN's meeting. Like, for me, it's in my personal career, it's been something that I want to spread. I have to spread because it's been the best thing I've seen tangible done that I've contributed to. And why I say this is I took that opportunity. I applied for TEDx Ottawa, which was an opportunity, 80 applicants. There were 20 additions, so 20 people addition, and they selected 4, and I was one of the 4 people selected. I honestly attribute to all my knowledge gained out of the process of this to me having the confidence, and I think differentiating myself on stage during the audition. And I recently did that. It's going to be live, it'll be online soon. I did it in October in front of 700 to 800 people at the NAC in Ottawa. And again, for me professionally, and personally, it was just amazing. And it was all because of like what this has done. This whole filling out and helping with an award 2 years ago was the catalyst for all of this.
Yeah,
really,
and I'm no
really
longer
exciting.
in that team, but in terms of professional development, just the skills are so transferable, presenting to senior leadership, to council, working with my counterparts at Ontario Power Generation, all the skills that were learned through the coaching are absolutely applicable for the rest of your life.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. We have a few more minutes still for questions. I don't see any coming in from the chat box yet, but I'll leave that as another reminder for you guys. Just if you have questions for Dan or Caitlin or for me, please ask those now. Sort of my final 2 questions for you was, one is, what was your experience with the application process itself like? Did you find it was fairly straightforward and clear to fill out, or did you? And you can be upfront about this if you had troubles along the way. Was there anything that you felt like was a bit of a stumbling block, or something where you wish you'd had more information about before you started?
Yeah, I think it was fairly clear. I can recall copy and pasting the questions into a Word file. So to hear you say that you have those questions available to people will probably save a little bit of time. Just for us, we wrote the application, but then we wanted to run it by a few people and make sure that everything that we'd written was appropriate. And so if it's online, it's a little bit hard to do that. So that's just the way that we did it.
Yeah, it was the same. So I think that's a very valuable lesson learned just listening to this. And I apologize. It sounds like somebody's working above me with a screwdriver. But I'd also say that there was a little bit just to make sure you plan for enough time, because if I remember correctly, there were some letters to support, like it had to be signed by the mayor, and that wasn't hard because we were working collaboratively on it. But just depending on your municipality, how it has to get in front of the right people, like is it through a certain process or something, just to make sure you're aware of some of the things you want to include with it. And then keep in mind, there's that opportunity to show, I think, other attachments too that help supplement it, if I remember correctly. So just take advantage of those things to show your story as well, because any video clips or pictures that could help with the story, I think do help convey what you're doing, depending on the project.
Absolutely, that's great feedback to hear from both of you, and certainly the move we made to doing this all online last year or in 2018. I think that was the first time we used this platform, and overall, I think it's a good that we have this option. It makes judging it a lot easier. It makes the administration easier, but certainly anything we can do to make things more accessible and easier for you guys to get these applications in, we're more than happy. So again, like I mentioned earlier, if you want to have a PDF copy that you can refer to in advance, please feel free, and I can send that along. And then lastly, for both of you, do you have any advice for individuals looking to apply this year? Dan, you already mentioned making sure to start early, but anything else that you would want to kind of leave folks with before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think it's just do it. we could have easily not raised this as an opportunity to showcase our project. It took a little bit of time, but it wasn't too cumbersome. And honestly, the value that we've received back, the recognition that our organization continues to receive, well worth it. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
think we're in a time that we have to share good practices, and we have to help each other, because we're on the same spaceship, and for everything I read, it's not heading in the right direction. So I think very valuable. I do it, and it might seem, well, now it works for you, but how can it? I think it's our responsibility, if we've created something pretty darn cool, to share it with others. Because if we're all working on different solutions for things and sharing, we'll be able to get to better global solutions quicker and that's what we have to do.
Oh, that's great. Okay, well, I think we're almost out of time. There's a few more minutes if anyone has any final questions, but that's all that I had. So I think we'll probably wrap up there. I do want to say another really big thank you to Dan and Caitlin for their time today. It's really great to hear you both. You're such engaging speakers. Obviously, that speaking coaching paid off, and we really appreciate you taking the time to join us. So just a few final items before we close. I'll just add one more key takeaway to our list here, is to make sure to keep in touch with us. If you have questions, again, as I've been mentioning, or anything new that comes to you as you complete your application, please feel free. This is the email that you want. It's awards@fcm.ca, and you'll be able to reach out to someone on our team, likely me as well, to join. And again, this will also be recorded, and we'll likely be posting this to our YouTube channel, and I can share that with the list of people who attended the webinar. Oh, I'd also recommend you subscribe to FCM Connect if you haven't already. I imagine most of you have, since that's probably how you found out about this webinar. But that is our primary means of communicating about the awards, as well as other webinars and other learning opportunities as well. And lastly, we would also really appreciate it if, I know not everyone likes to do surveys, but we really would appreciate it if you could just take 2 minutes to fill this out post-webinar. It should open when you close, and it will also be in the follow-up email. But this is the first time that we're doing this kind of activity specifically for the awards program as a way to help not only promote, but also help people understand the application process. And it would be really useful for us just to find out more about whether or not this was helpful for you, or if you have other suggestions for things that we could do to kind of make the process easier. So thank you for doing that. If you take the time, it's really appreciated on our end. And that's all we have, folks. So thanks everyone for your time today, and I hope that we will be hearing from all of you soon with your applications. Bye.
Thank you.